Welcome to this chapter of the St. Andrew Society of Detroit's Oral History Project. This project was the undertaking of the Charles S. Lowe Memorial Library Committee to capture members' recollections of the Society. Recorded in January 18th of 2018, these are the memories of Dennis Clements, former Society trustee and the first and current chairperson of the Society's Library Committee. Dennis, you mentioned about your interest in things of Scotland through your dad. Start there. Tell me about that.
I grew up in a traditional household. My dad was very traditional. Besides being Scotch, we're English and Irish. He was born in Canada. And on my mom's side, we're Italian. She was 100% Italian. But my dad, I think a lot from the English, that tradition that comes through. And I remember growing up listening to the records that he played with the pipes and the drums, and he enjoyed them, and I learned to enjoy them too. So I was able to pick up on that from him.
And from that, you were interested in the music as a young man. Then did you become more interested in things Scottish yourself, or when was it where you yourself really became excited about being Scottish?
I think it was when I got a little bit older that my dad joined the society, and I remember my first recollection of the games was over at the Etzel Ford Estate, and that was to me a special place to hold something like the games, because just the surroundings of that, the house and being on the water and everything like that. So I was able to go with him, and it got to the point like there was my brother and myself and then my nephew. The guys every year would go to the Highland Games, and then the games moved over to Greenmead, and we started going to the Greenmead games. And I remember, because my dad, like I said, he did a lot of reading, and he talked a lot about with Scotland, especially when he was in the war, in World War II, and being over, he was in the Navy, but they were over in Europe and that. I remember as he started getting older, we were at one of the games, it was the end of the day, and you start getting kind of tired, and he was kind of dragging there and everything like that. And then up behind us on the pathway came the Scottish bagpipes players and the drums. And he just kind of like stood up straight, and, you know, it was that sound and everything like that. That's what he was saying. It just stirred him inside. Where then, and that's what he was talking about, how in Scotland, about how some of those, when they hear the bagpipes, they would follow them because of that sound. You know, it stirred them up inside, gave them that strength to be able to do that. And then what happened is, part of that, I kept thinking about maybe joining the society, and it's one of those ones where you got things going on and stuff, and I never did. Well, he passed away. Kind of felt bad that I didn't join when he was still alive so that we could share something like that together. But then afterwards, I decided I was going to go ahead and join in honor of him. So I'm the second generation of our family then to be a member.
What year did you become a member, Dennis?
I think it was around 2010, and then started becoming active in different things within the society.
Let's go back to the games real quick here. You mentioned the Ford Estate, your first games, and you and your dad and brothers and cousins would go to. You said that you liked it. It was beautiful. Tell me more about it. The size of the crowds that you might guesstimate.
I'm not sure how many. It always impressed me is when you have a house and on your front lawn you can have the Highland Games be out in front there for the size of it. It's a beautiful estate. There's so many trees, and the houses I think is beautiful in that. There seem to be a lot of people, but then again, like in Greenmead, certainly Greenmead is huge, and so when you start spreading the crowds out, it's hard to get a feel for how many people are there. So I'm not quite sure how many people are actually at those games. Like I said, is being there out there by the water, it's just a beautiful spot. So
give me some of your impressions maybe of games at Greenmead. What do you like about it? If there's anything that could be better?
Again, this was kind of sharing with my dad, and we were out there early one time, and it was kind of like one of those days where it was a little bit foggy still in the morning. And at Greenmead, it's kind of changed a little bit since then, because they've built a house, or they moved a house in, and it's changed a little bit. But where the parade of the clans are, but the pipes were coming up over, and there's that hill, and you see them coming out of the fog, and that kind of gave you that feeling of like what it would be like maybe in Scotland with the weather and the fog. So it was kind of like a special feeling that way too.
You're very involved here with the library. Tell me a little bit about the library.
Actually, it started with Mary Lou Duncan, who was our society genealogist. She was given the task of some books. They received some books from Charles Lowe and Marv Campbell, both past presidents. and their families had donated the books, and we got just over 400 books from them. And what is now the classroom, all these boxes were in there, and Mary Lou had asked if I wanted to help out with the books and that, and I said I would. And then Michael West said, hey, we'd like to get these all documented in the computer, make sure that we know what books are here, where they came from, start to do that. And so we were saying, well, we need to kind of get the library going. So we kind of got started. There was the originals were Mickey McFarland, Nancy Fromm, Deb Wilson, and myself. And we would work in there and in these boxes, take these boxes out, the books out of the boxes, and start to get them into the database. The Lowe family then wanted to give a donation as seed money to start an official library. And I believe, and I haven't seen anything since, that the society since 1849 never really had an official library. Now, I know that back, especially when they were at St. Andrew's Hall, they had some of the books, because we run across some of these books that were from the early 1800s. So probably in the hall they had some bookcases or whatever, and had books there and magazines and things like that. But there was no official library. So the Lowe family said, here's some funds to be able to get started. So there was a room that was designated and said this would be where the library would be. And so with the money that they gave, we were able to have bookcases actually built. Everything that's in the library right now is on the bookshelves are all custom built for the library. And so this one wall that we started with was able to keep all the books that we had, but it's one of those ones when you have a room and you have bookcases, then before you know it, you start getting more books and more books and more books start coming in. And so over a period of time, we're right now with the books themselves, we're at about 1,500 books that we have in the library. And then we're getting into things with the magazines and audio, video. We just recently started with expanding our clan collection with the McKinnons. Malcolm McKinnon has been instrumental in getting us going with the clan stuff. We also have a genealogical collection, and Derek Blount has been helpful with that. So we're kind of having different parts of the library, and then they are starting to grow as more and more volunteers come in to help out. And then we also have the archives, which is actually in the classroom next door, which is all the older material that we have from the society, and then new material that we're putting that into the archives. So those things are expanding too.
As the library has grown, obviously your staff here in the library has grown. You mentioned some of the original members of the library staff. Who are some of the other people that are now involved in helping you with the library efforts?
Well, there's Nan Fromm, and I'll kind of just say a little bit, like Nan is a retired interior decorator. So Nan has been very instrumental in the library as far as being able to get, I'll say, character. Everybody says this, and because this was the restaurant beforehand, we got a fireplace in the library, so it's kind of unique that not too many libraries have that. But she was able to bring in some like leather chairs, and so you start to add some character besides just books on a shelf kind of a thing. So Nan was able to do that. Linda Davenport is new to the library. She's helping with us. Sharon Cross is kind of picking up on our genealogy area, though she says she's not real a genealogist per se. She has a lot of knowledge about that. So when people come in to ask questions, she can kind of get them started and get them going in the right direction. Stuart Kennedy is one of the fellows that joined. He's very helpful in the library. I kind of teased with him. I said he's my bronze of the library because there's always things that got to get moved and lifted, and so he's one of those ones that kind of helps out with that. There's Marianne Clark. She's one of those ones where she's as regular as clockwork, always comes here and helping out with the library. And Kathy McCulloch-Less, she's a professional librarian. So she helped us, and we were in an early stage there. We were going in a direction, and she was able to, certainly as a librarian, be able to identify how we should move and we worked together as a committee, and she was able to, like I said, kind of move us the way we should be moving and getting things into categories and getting them on the shelves and getting them documented and that. So she was very good on that. And actually, we have a new another professional librarian. So we're very fortunate now. We got Nancy Waters, who's our second professional librarian. So I think we're blessed that in a library like this, to have people that this is what they've done their whole career, they can add a lot of information to us. So she was able to do that. Elliot McFarland, and people in the society know Elliot. He's one of those characters that you don't easily forget. Sue Biskner, she unfortunately hasn't been able to participate of late, but because of some illnesses that she's had. But she's very helpful. And we finally convinced Dick Fromm, Nancy's husband, to join. He came here from the very beginning. He would drop Nancy off, and then he would go off and do some things that he had to do, and he came back. But he would stay here longer and longer, and then we finally convinced him, hey, you need to join and be a part of the library. Rob Forrest is another member that we have in the library. He's been able to help us out, and actually his wife has also been helping us. So sometimes we get members that kind of come in, but sometimes we get their family. Even his daughter has come here to help out in the library. So we appreciate his and his family's help too. And the last one I think is Terry Mago. She just joined recently, one of the new members. So Nancy Waters and Terry are new members, and then they decided to join right away, which is nice. And I think, like we were saying, this is how the library's grown. As we keep getting more books, we had to keep building more bookshelves. When those would get filled, then we'd have to build more bookshelves. And then when those get filled, we built more. So as more and more material came into the library, that expanded that portion of the library. But I remember in the beginning when we got started, we started with in the one room and just kind of working on the tabletop. Once we had this room, you don't have everything, so everything was kind of makeshift. We would do things to kind of get us by until we could, afford to be able to purchase what we needed to for the library. We would bring in tables and chairs from the hall, bring them in here, then they would need it for the hall, so the tables and chairs would move out to there, and then we went back and forth. So happy the day that we were able to afford to be able to bring our own tables and chairs to have them in the library here.
What are some of the most favorite categories of books that people like to read here from the library? Is it genealogy? Is it Scottish history? What is the most interesting that people find here?
I think it's genealogy. I think that seems to be the one that's for everybody, no matter where you're at. They want to hear more and more about their family history. And I think with the things with DNA and everything like that gets people excited about where they're from. And I know for myself, I had that done and found out that there were some areas that we had no idea that the family, that's where they came from, or some of the family in that. But we're getting more and more people that are interested in that. That's what happens when people join. One of the things to say as initiation, was one of the reasons why you want to join. They'll say they want to learn more about their family history and everything like that. So we've done several programs. The recent Dr. Dury from Scotland to talk about genealogy and everything like that. And we open it not just to members, but to the community. And we've had pretty good response with both of those. One of the things we're looking at doing is Derek Blount is looking to maybe hold some classes in genealogy. So maybe like a beginner's class. And then this would be open to the community, and people would be able to come in, not only the members, then a little bit more advanced in research. We're trying to help people wherever we can. We're building out our section of books. Dr. Dury had 3 volumes of these books, and Derek was telling us that these are much sought after because they're quite expensive. And so an individual that does their research wouldn't be able to afford those. But having them here in the library, then somebody could come in and be able to use them that way then.
What are some of the other categories of books that you have here in the library besides genealogy?
Oh, boy. And part of the things, too, I think it's the next one maybe, would be the clans. We're starting to expand more of that, and there seems to be that people being excited about their clans, because that's part of, I guess maybe part of genealogy, because it's their clans where they came from. So we have the clans section, we have the biography, fiction, and we're not just 100% Scottish. So we got some books from our section in England and one in Ireland. Certainly, you couldn't have a library without having a section on Burns. So we have the Burns, architecture, pictorials, religion, folklore. I mean, I'm not sure how many categories we have. Again, with Kathy's help, we decided not to go down the Dewey Decimal System, but she kind of helped us formulate the categories that she thought the society would be most helpful for. So when we set up these categories, they may not be quite the way the Dewey would set them up, but they make sense for the book of what it is, and when somebody comes in here looking for a book, what they'll be able to want to have.
When can members use the library?
We tried to early on to do some things, and you try to put it in stone. So we set up early on the third Saturday of every month. And so we meet at 9:30 to 10:30 as the committee to kind of take care of the business portion of the meeting. And then at 10:30, it's our work session. Then we're open to the membership in the community from 10:30 until 2:30. And so anybody can come in, and we've had some people from the community come in at that time, and we've had members come in and want to be involved and look around and end up kind of gravitating towards the genealogy section. And then we also say that we're open by appointment. So if somebody wants to come in and they can't come on the third Saturday or whatever, just call us, let us know, and we'll make arrangements, and somebody will be here to let them in. We've already had one individual that came in to do some research. And so that's what we're hoping is as we continue to grow, that maybe more and more people will use the library and the resources that we have here to do research.
And if somebody wants the number to set an appointment to come in, they can get it from the St. Andrews Society website?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'm understanding is the communications committee is working on our new website, and the library will have an expanded, compared to what we have right now, we're going to have an expanded section in there, which will give a lot of the material that we have. Anybody will be able to go in there and be able to see that.
For the books that you have here now for the members and for the community at large, are any of these books available where people can check them out for a week or two, or are these all these materials that they want to use them here in the library? How does that work?
We're not a public library, we're a private library. So for members, any of the members can come in and check anything out. The only thing that we don't let go out is the special collections section, which those are the books that are from like the early 1800s, and those are the ones that are in fragile shape, but then they're very, very old. So you can't take out those or any reference books. But any other of the magazines, the audio tapes, the videotapes, the books, they can take them out. Can have them for several weeks or whatever. We're not one of those ones where you got to have it back at a certain time. Right. People from the community can come in, they can use the library, but they can't check out any books. We just don't have that capability to be able to track, and if something happens or whatever, to start losing books or whatever.
Tell me about your videotape collection. What kind of offerings do you have in that category?
There's, and what happens sometimes when you have like anything, like a library, or I'm thinking like Salvation Army, people kind of clean out some of their things, and so what you do is you get some of the material that comes in. So we've gotten a lot of VHS tapes, and of course in today's world, I don't think there's too many people that have a VHS tape left over. But we've got some of the videos that are like in a movie format. We have some that are historical, so you can learn about some of the history of Scotland. And then there's some fiction about Scotland, and then they show like a castle or whatever and a family, and the stories that kind of go around with that.
I guess maybe if we could turn our attention to the society again at large. We talked a little bit about the Highland Games. Tell me about the meetings here at the society, what they're like, what do you like about them, maybe what you don't like about them, what could be better. Share your thoughts there.
Well, I mentioned that kind of being raised in a traditional household, tradition is important to me. And certainly when I joined, thinking is a society that goes back to 1849. It's steeped in a lot of tradition. And so there's some of that you see. For me personally, I would like more to see. One of the things that we were doing as a society is when new members were being initiated, they were being initiated actually in the library. That needed to be, just like it had been since the very beginning, needed to be part of the membership as a whole. So we voted on that one evening, and the membership said, this is what we want to do then. So from then on, we started having our initiation as part of the meetings that we had out there. Roger Somerville is always the one that towards the end of the meeting, he likes to raise his hand and say is to adjourn. I always tease because when they have a vote, I always vote the opposite, because when I'm here, I enjoy the meetings. I enjoy the business part of it, and I enjoy the sharing and the people getting together that don't get to see each other except for maybe once a month. You like to see that go on. And I realize that for me, I'm not that far from here, but there's many people, and some of the older people that live quite a distance, and especially in the wintertime. I mean, to think they have to drive back home a long distance and stuff. So I understand why the meetings are only a certain length of time. But I guess that says, I enjoy being here as a society when we come together as a whole and meet in the main hall there.
It seems, talking to other people, that the more one becomes involved with the society, the better it is for the society and the better it is for the individual. What advice would you tell new members to the society? What advice would you give to maybe younger adults that are possibly thinking about being a member of the St. Andrews Society of Detroit?
I guess it's like anything else that people would say is to get involved. And some people may not get involved on their own. They may need to be asked. A lot of times people, once they're asked, will say, sure, I'll be a part of that. And I think by being involved, and maybe some people are a little bit leery because they figure if I volunteer for something, before I know it, I'm 100% doing things. And I remember one thing John Thompson, who's a longtime friend of our family, has said is, hey, think about this. When you join, you can become as involved as much or as little as you want. And that's your choice to make about what you want to do. And so I think that's stuck in the back of my mind. Now I've certainly, because of the library and some of the other things, got more involved. But I think for people, if they get involved and they start, and again, I keep going back to the library, but I think, we have a good time as a committee. There's a good group of people that we have a good time, and we get a lot of work done. And I think that makes a difference when people come in, and if they get to meet people, they get to be involved and get to know somebody that they hadn't got to know before. You never know, it could be a long-term friendship that comes out of that. So I guess that would be the one thing. And I think it's part of the society to follow back up with people and kind of draw them in. Like I said, is sometimes people need to be asked. Mm-hmm. Or if we haven't, somebody doesn't come to meetings, or if they drop off and they drop off as being a member, to follow back up and ask them if there's something that we could do or why they may be left or whatever. From those kinds of things we can learn and understand more about what interests the greater group, I guess, of people.
What is the funniest thing you can remember that's happened among the library committee working? What is the most crazy thing that ever happened?
We got a donation that was made of, she wasn't a member, but she had a kilt from her husband that passed away. And like a lot of things that we get, we accept a lot of things that if we can use it in the library, we do. And if we can't, we tell them up front that we'll sell those items, and the money that we raise from that gets put towards the operation of the library. So we got this kilt in, and we were thinking about what to do with it. Well, Mary Ann made some inquiries, and JCPenney was getting rid of their old mannequins because they were getting new mannequins in. So to a Scott, they said you could have it for free. So we said, perfect. So we got the mannequin, and we dressed him up. We call him Mac. It's John McCarthy is the actual person's kilt, but we call him Mac. And when you're coming into the library or leaving the library, you turn the lights out, or when you first turn the lights on, and Mac stands over against the one wall and by the door to get out to the outside there, and you flip the light on or whatever, and all of a sudden you look and you got that thing where you think, okay, somebody's in here, because even though he's been here for a while, you get that surprise. And even George has made comments about how he gets kind of started from him because he's not expecting somebody in there, and you turn the lights on and all of a sudden you see this, or you turn the lights off and there's this shadow. So it's kind of funny.
Give me kind of a promotional line as to why somebody should become involved with the society and why somebody should become involved with the library.
For the society, I think it's in order to be able to maintain, and again, maybe I go back to that, traditions, especially for our society. But it's good that these different groups There's the elks, there's the moose, all these lodges that have been around for, it seems like, forever. And some of them are starting to die out because there's just not that interest. And I think it's important that we have these organizations and groups to keep that alive. It was handed off to us by our previous generation, and it's kind of like our responsibility to keep it going and hand it off to the next generation. And with St. Andrews, many people have made comments that what they like a lot about the society is the benevolences. And I mean, that's why it was started back in 1849, was for the benevolences. And we do so much good for the veterans and women and children. And so it's good to be able to do that. And I think if people join, if it's nothing more to just be able to help, with these other organizations, that's worth that. And for the library, I think, again, people have entrusted us with their families' books, material. And again, it's kind of like our responsibility to kind of carry that forward, to care for it while we have it and it's been entrusted to us, make it available for other people to be able to come in and share. I didn't mention, but the Burton Library has a huge collection of St. Andrews. When they closed the St. Andrews Hall, they had, like I said, the material, the binders that go back, way back when, that talk about the membership, legal documents, plans that they had for the St. Andrews Hall. They didn't know what to do with this, so they worked with the Burton Library, and the Burton Library accepted that. And they have the right facilities to be able to preserve that. And so a lot of our history is down there being preserved. What our library committee wants to do is to be able to digitize everything that the Burton Library has and bring that out to our library here so that people would be able to not have to go necessarily down to the Burton Library, but they could come here. There would be a digital version of it while the original is being preserved by the Burton Library. And so that's what our archive section is going to grow over time also for that. It'll be a number of years for us to be able to do that. They have a lot of material down there, and then we need to work with professional scanners that we can trust to be able to hand over this material. They scan that and digitize it and then get it back to us, and then us get it back to the Burton Library. We try to do different things. I mean, where we see something to help out for the plaque, which you see when you come into the hall and to the left for the Kilgores, the library committee took that on because we felt for the kind of funds that they left for a building, we needed to do something like that. And so if we see something like that, even that's not necessarily part of the library, we kind of take that on and see that it gets finished.
This presentation of the St. Andrews Society of Detroit's Oral History Project was produced by Van Rohr for the St. Andrews Society of Detroit's Library Committee under the direction of Dennis Clements, current chairperson, and Shelby Brown Rohr, current St. Andrews Society of Detroit's communication director. This project celebrates the 169th year of the St. Andrews Society of Detroit. Salante.